So yeah, maybe Mesa is not the greatest at Sanctuary Elite Onslaught, but that's okay. Hello there, Inspired Tenno. So, it was requested that I cover Mesa and her Regulators. And listen, in my combat medic video, I was going to open the screen and I had this whole spiel prepared about how great Trinity is and how I main her, and I did, but because of all of the testing I did for the ultimate guide to IO farming, guess what happened? Now Mesa Prime is my most played Warframe, because he's great at open worlds as well, to keep that in mind. Alright, but enough talk. Let's actually get into this video and the build, which is the whole point of it. So first up, let's go and take a look at Mesa. And here we are on the base build. I think this is a great place to start. A lot of relatively cheap, except for of course blind raids and adaptation, but adaptation is really good and you should at least go ahead and get a level 7 as early as possible. It is one of the best, if not the best defensive mod in the game. Relatively cheap setup, and a lot of these mods you use in other builds as well. Pretty much all of them you use in at least some other builds. Let's go and take a look at the Regulators. And not this one, but this one is a great starter build. It is relatively cheap, even though you do need a Hornet Strike that is maxed out. You can do alright with a level 8 or 9, but try and max this one out. Base damage is very important on these kind of setups. We have a good amount of fire rate as well as a multi-shot, critical chance, and some elemental mods for damage. I built viral on here because obviously viral is the best. So let's go and take a look at some of the things you can do to upgrade this build if you'd like to do so. This here is a all-around build, and here I'm using just one defensive mod. If you want to use this on something like the Steel Path, you will absolutely need to add another mod. You can use adaptation, you absolutely should, and then you can either keep Vigor, you can upgrade it to Prime Vigor if you're willing to use more Form on it, or otherwise you can use Rolling Guard, which is great. When maxed out, this has a 7-second cooldown and makes you invulnerable for 3 seconds, removes all status effects, just to give you that saving grace in case that you get inflicted with something like a bad electric proc, for example. We're using Arcane Velocity, which is one of the best arcanes in the game specifically because of Mesa. This can trigger on Mesa herself, or Mesa I should say, and sorry about that. And as you can see here, 90% chance when you land a critical hit, which is basically every hit almost with this build, and then you get 120% additional damage. Well, not really, because some of the other mods gives you fire rate as well, and it stacks linearly with that. But still, it is a lot of additional damage. We're using Gatling gun levels of speed with this, and Torrent. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm using Arcane Energize on this build, and you will probably have to do that as well. The thing about Mesa is that her incredible offense comes from her ability to deal a lot of damage quickly, and that goes for her defense as well. Now obviously Shatter Shield is very powerful. It gives you a 95% damage reduction. It's only against incoming damage. It doesn't protect you from status procs, and it doesn't protect you from melee attacks, but for the most part this is a true damage reduction, which is very powerful at 95%. But still, with no real way to build armor on her, she can get overwhelmed really quickly, and you can die to a rogue status proc. So you want to kill things very quickly. If you can't do that, you're probably going to die instead. And so for this reason, Mesa really only comes online when the build is more or less complete. She needs a lot of support. When she has it, she's incredible, but again, it takes a lot to get her to the point where she's actually useful. Now I did just demonstrate how you can get a lot of use out of this build, and especially if you're willing to use some energy replenish, these here, the squad energy restores, then that's an option, but you're gonna have to use a lot of them if you're not willing to use Arcane Energize. And finally, for our focus, we will go with old good reliable Zenoric. You need the energizing dash for this build, and also energy pulse is quite nice. It very rarely comes into play with this build because its effect cannot trigger while you're using Peacemaker, as it is a challenge ability, but still it is very nice, and you absolutely need to use this. So I hope you liked this. If you did, leave a like, and if you like this kind of content in general also, you should consider subscribing, because there are more specific Mesa videos coming out soon, so stay tuned for that.